Good evening and welcome to the regular City Commission meeting for the City of Coffeyville, Kansas, Tuesday, December 8, 2015. Tonight's invocation will be conducted by Pastor Nicole Schwartz of the First United Methodist Church. After the invocation, please remain standing so we can have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Thank you. Please join with me in prayer or observe a moment of silence. Holy and gracious God, as we experience the hustle and bustle of this holiday season, help us to slow down and experience the joy of this community. Help us to celebrate the blessings we have received. Help us to notice the awesome things happening around us. When a community comes together, when neighbors help one another, when we support the activities of the young people, and we participate in the activities for the young and the young at heart. Help us to see the best in our community and in one another, and help us to encourage and lift one another up. Help us to notice and thank those who help in our community, from teachers and medical professionals to police and fire and EMTs, from schools to churches to public service agencies to volunteers. We are thankful that we have so many who help. Also, God, help us to see those around our community for whom the holiday is not a happy time, whether it's a reminder of times gone by or the current struggle of life. Help us to truly be community to them, offering our support by walking with them on their journey and giving of ourselves. God, tonight, help us to pause and be faithful in the work entrusted to us. Give us wisdom in our thoughts and words and actions. Give us focus that we can complete the tasks before us tonight. Give us hope for our future and inspire us to be innovative and creative in finding paths forward. Help us put the needs of our community before our own agendas and needs, and guide us tonight and always, that we might follow your will and be beacons of hope, and that our diverse community of Coffeyville might grow in strength and knowledge of you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Consent agenda items tonight include the regular City Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, November 24, 2015, and the 2015 appropriation ordinance number AO-15-22 in the amount of $1,661,971.21, and 2015 appropriation ordinance AO-15-22A in the amount of $1,994.18. Commissioners, do you have questions or additions to the minutes?
No. None.
Questions or anything about the two appropriation ordinances?
None.
Seeing none, I move that we pass the two ordinances and this, or actually all the consent agenda items.
A second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Powell to approve the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Tonight we don't have any proclamations or hearings, so we'll move on to the comments from the public. This is a time for the public to address the commission about any concerns that they have that's not necessarily on the agenda. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to address with the Coffeyville City Commission, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address, and address the commission.
Good evening. My name is Pam Jones. I live at 704 Highland Road, Coffeyville. And I'm here tonight to comment on just Commissioner Martin's article in Saturday's Coffeyville Journal. I'm just saying that I totally agree with what he had to say. I think we need to get back together under one roof. How long is it going to be before the municipal building is finished and y'all can get back in? Do you know?
Mr. Francis, do you have any idea?
We estimate it to be approximately 18 months once we have a clear direction to move forward.
Okay.
I'm also here to talk about the matter of the new fire station and the police station. Coffeyville is a progressive town. I love this town. This is my hometown. I think that we all deserve brand-new buildings, but I'd like a 2016 red Corvette convertible too, but that's not going to happen because I don't have the money set aside for it. I don't believe in jumping in and going into debt. I don't run my house that way, and I tried not to run the city that way when I was up here. I think the money needs to be gathered and set aside, building maintenance funds, all that money before we get in debt. Our mill levy went up 12%. Our sales tax is going down. Our population is declining, and we need to watch our spending. It's not coming in like it used to. I don't like going into debt. It's a burden on the taxpayer, and also when people move here, they see the amount of debt we've got. I mean, they hear it, people talk, and it's a little frightening. There are some people that are living here right now that between food, medicine, they pick food. They do without a lot of things because the cost of living for some of these people are high. And I hate to see us get into debt. I think we need to think things thoroughly through before we spend any more money. We just can't keep going in debt, and we can't keep accruing this debt. We need to stop and think before we jump into the water head first. We need to check and see how shallow it is, how deep it is. How's this going to affect us in 5 years, 10 years? But I'm totally in agreement with Commissioner Martin on this. We just really don't need to build new. We deserve it, and believe me, I've toured over the years the police department, the city hall, the fire department, and it is inadequate, and they deserve better. But at what cost? Maybe a cost to us in the long run as far as, equipment, et cetera, but we need to watch our spending. We really do. We just can't keep doing this. And I just, before you guys decide on anything tonight, before you vote on purchasing anything, going into debt, getting bonds, anything, please check and make sure all your ducks are in a row. Make sure you know where the money's going to come from to repay this debt. And please don't put it as a burden on the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
My name is Jim C. Taylor Sr., and I live at 704 Spruce. Mayor and Commissioners, I think you all have a letter that I addressed this week to you, Mayor, and to Commissioner Kastler. I don't want to be here to be argumentative, but I think I've posted in that some questions that really need to be answered. I would like for you to take the time to address those tonight or sometime. It certainly can't be done in 3 minutes, but I feel like it's things we should have been talking about for the last couple of years. We've postponed it now till it's going to take a little more time than 3 minutes. I hope that the end result will be that we can better inform our citizens of what's actually taking place in our community, and we can get off of the value of the mail-in questionnaire we sent out and present to our citizens an opportunity to look at some costs on what we're doing, and then give them the opportunity to vote in a bond election to see if we want to go in debt another $9 or $10 million after we've already spent about $6 million on the original project that we started out that was going to cost $9 million. I would like to, you have the letter. It's available to the people that are here. It's available on my website. It was available in the Coffeyville newspaper. I'd like for y'all to have some open discussion about it and see how we can get those questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any of me.
I don't have any. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Additional citizens wish to speak to the commission? Anyone want to address Mr. Taylor's letter?
Which part?
I just received the letter, so I have no way to educatedly respond to any of it at this time.
I've sent some questions that I had from it to Kendall, so, and I got those answers back, so.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Discussion and action to approve the 2016 cereal malt beverage license renewal. Cindy Price, City Clerk, will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, we received 15 applications this year for renewal of our cereal malt beverage license, and all of those meet the requirements set out by state statute and are eligible to be renewed.
Last few years I've been on the commission, there's been one certain group that hadn't got theirs on time. Was that in on time?
Marcus, can you turn your microphone?
Right here. No, they did not.
I didn't hear
They
the
didn't, okay.
They didn't.
I was asking if the one who always is late getting theirs in has gotten theirs in.
We did not receive one this year from Solito Lindo. I did send them an application, and I called them to remind them that that it was supposed to be in, and they did not send one in.
This is a reoccurring theme. I don't know what the issue is, but
If they would bring it before the next meeting, I would present it to you at the December 22nd meeting, and they would be eligible then.
Any additional questions? Motion.
I move to approve 2016 cereal malt beverage license renewals.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve the 2016 cereal malt beverage license renewals. Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Castler,
aye.
Commissioner Powell,
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye. Resolution number R-15-156, a resolution to approve the 2016 cereal malt beverage license for the Montgomery County Fair Association. Cindy Clerk will make, I did it again.
That's okay.
Cindy Price, City Clerk, will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is also a renewal for the Montgomery County Fair Association, and this is to allow them to sell beer during the Interstate Fair and Rodeo. We do this separately by a resolution, as we do need to exempt them from the city ordinance, which prohibits the sale of alcohol in public places. They meet the requirements also. There's a map that was included in your staff report that shows the locations of the beer gardens that they will have inside the arena. This just allows the sales inside the arena, and also on their special Saturday night activity where they'll have a barn dance in Barn A, and they'll be able to sell then. Jim Lawrence, who will be president of the Fair Association next year, is here if you have any questions for him.
You guys have any questions?
Do not.
This is the same exact thing as it
Yes.
was last year.
Last year, we did the amendment to it because they came and asked about the barn dance. This year, it's all included in one.
Okay, thank you. Motion.
I move to approve resolution R-15-156 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Mayor Williams to approve resolution number R-15-156 for adoption. Commissioner Powell,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Mayor Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Castler,
Aye.
Resolution number R-15-157, a resolution to identify preferred vendors for chemicals for the water treatment plant during 2016. Public Works Director Chuck Shively will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, on December 1st, we opened bids for chemicals to be used at the water treatment plant for the year 2016. You should have a tabulation of the bids received listing both the unit prices bid and the annual costs based on estimated annual quantity to be used. Our recommended preferred vendor for each chemical is shaded on that chart. For informational purposes, I also included a table comparing unit costs for chemicals over the past 15 years. As my staff report explains, some of the work we've done in the past year and changes we've made to chemicals being used should reduce chemical costs next year while also improving water quality and employee safety. My staff report also explains which chemicals we bid and which vendors we recommended as the preferred vendor for each chemical. The designation as preferred vendor documents our intent to purchase the chemicals to be used at the water treatment plant during 2016 from the specified vendors. But if at any time a designated preferred vendor fails to meet our requirements, we would then move to the next lowest vendor until we find one that meets our expectations. So I recommend approval of the resolution designated the preferred vendors for 2016 as listed in the body of the resolution. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Gentlemen, any questions?
None.
Not me.
Motion.
Motion to approve R-15-157 for approval.
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Martin and seconded by Mayor Williams to approve resolution number R-15-157 for adoption. Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Resolution number R-15-158, resolution to execute a change order with Mueller Construction for Fresno Street project. Chuck Shively, Public Works Director.
Mayor and Commissioners, the City of Coffeyville awarded a construction contract to Mueller Construction on May 13th, 2014 for the 2014 street reconstruction project. The project, as awarded, was for replacement or repair of Union Street, Grant Street, and Boulder Street. Fresno Street, north of First Street, was included in the bids, but was not awarded as part of that original construction contract. After comments from the public at the December 23rd, 2014 City Commission meeting, the Commission directed staff to add the Fresno Street project to the Mueller Construction contract, adding the costs for that street to the overall project as a final quantity change order. The project is now complete, and this is that final change order. It adds the actual final Fresno Street expenses to the contract based on actual quantities installed times the unit prices originally bid. It increases the final project cost by $89,414.60. I recommend that you authorize execution of change order number 3 to the 2014 street reconstruction project with Mueller Construction, increasing the contract amount by $89,414.60. I'd be happy to answer.
This was the street that was an odd deal that some bank in Cherryville owned.
Right.
It, and
That Fresno Street, for decades, after it came into the city limits, everyone was under the assumption it was a city street.
Yeah.
We maintained it, and there were several houses built on it. But the fact was, it had never been actually dedicated to the public as a street. So when we explained that to the city commission, originally they said, well, then we're not going to do it. But then when the people came and we had looked into what would need to be done, a bank actually owned it. So we got it dedicated as a street. And then we went forward with the construction.
I got no questions.
I move to approve resolution R-15-158 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-158 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number R-15-159, a resolution to execute a change order with Chris Will Engineering for electric utility. Electric Utility Deputy Director Mike Shook will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. The first item for this evening is, as you stated, a change order for Criswell Engineering. The City of Coffeyville has entered into consecutive agreements with Criswell Engineering to provide maintenance, testing, and support services to the electric utility and provide engineering services. These services include all aspects of the utility, from operation from distribution to generation to transmission. 2015 was an exception for the utility, as we experienced several unforeseen issues with equipment breakdowns and some upgrading events. Due to this, we will exceed the $150,000 that was approved at the beginning of the year for Criswell Engineering. Therefore, staff is requesting a change order be approved in the amount of $57,945.96 to finalize support services with Criswell Engineering for fiscal year 2015. Also, in your packet, I did include a list of all invoices from Criswell Engineering, giving a brief generic description of the invoices.
How you doing? So, Kendall, when you ask for more money, just for everybody at home, where does it come from?
In this case, I have most of those. This one, Mike.
It will either,
This is for the contract for.
it'll actually be, and it's on the.
This is not new generation.
No, this is existing. It'll actually come out of the distribution budget, the generation budget, and the transmission budget.
All right.
But not, comes from the electric fund, it's not tax
Correct.
money.
I'm good.
So it comes from funds that we receive from electric generation.
And the sale of electric.
Right, and, okay. And basically, the reason for this is because of the several incidents that we've had throughout the year that, obviously, these are incidents that you can't budget for,
That is correct, sir.
such as,
We had the generator leads on the Elliott unit. When they failed, then we had to go in, replace that. He has to come in and test this equipment. We've also used him for some extra things throughout the year, some fuse coordination studies. And when I say that, from the substation out on the lines in the field, making sure the lines are fused correctly back to the substation. It was also part of a coding issue because we have Criswell basically as a consultant on staff. It's been really easy just to, if he's in town, we have another issue come up, we just use him and we pull from that 150, when in reality we should have coded this separately and had a separate line item for this, not a separate line item, but a different purchase order for this, and not muddy the water with two separate
okay.
purchase orders.
Any additional questions? Motion.
I move to approve resolution R-15-159 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-159 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Resolution number R-15-160, a resolution to execute a change order with Dorothy Steel for the electric utility. Electric Utility Deputy Director Mike Shook will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, Wardsilla is recommending on all new installations that the starting receiving air tanks and the charge air ducts to be blasted and coated to prevent downstream fouling due to the negative effects of condensation and rusting. We received a bulletin from Wardsilla recommending this, and this change order, I believe, is in the $3,000 range for the tank. That was approved. When we received this recommendation from Wardsilla, of course, we vetted it through Burns & McDonnell. They checked with other facilities that they've installed this, and they agreed with this recommendation. Since we have a contract with Doherty Steel to build and provide the air ducts, this change order, therefore staff recommends the approval and authorization of this change order to Doherty Steel in the amount of $23,416.16 to provide the blasting and coating of the interior surface of the charge air duct for the new generation facility.
So Wardzilla's asking for this to be done. I'm sure there's a good reason. What's the...
Because they've experienced fouling on other units that were previously installed over the last 20 years. They did not recommend at that time that they had these blasted and coated, and over time, because it is an air tank, condensation would build up and the tanks would rust, and then the rust would get blown downstream into the engines.
Does that affect our warranty or anything?
Pardon me?
Does that affect our warranty?
I believe that it would be covered in a warranty if we went with their recommendations, should something happen, but that's limited.
What is, I know a couple weeks ago, we discussed this, and in the total project of this electric utility generation, we were under our total budget at the time.
Yes, sir. We initially.
What does this do to us?
The 23,000 is minor compared to the savings we've seen so far, but as the project goes on, we do chip away at that savings, yes, sir. But we're currently still under budget.
Okay, but even with this 23,000 change order, we're still underneath where we expect to be right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any further questions, gentlemen. Do you have any further? I move to approve resolution number 15-160.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-160 for adoption. Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action to set a public hearing for the 2015 City of Coffeyville budget amendment for Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015 at 6:30 p.m. Finance Director Stephanie Richardson will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, it's that time of year that we look at our funds and determine what budget amendments are needed for the end of the year. We have done that, and we're proposing to make 6 budget amendments this year. Those will be published in the Coffeyville Journal on Saturday to meet the 10-day requirement before our public hearing, which we're going to hold at the December 22nd meeting. This item tonight is just merely to set that public hearing. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those. I will go ahead and let you know the 6 funds are the Economic Development Fund, the Police VIM Fund, the Airport Fund, the Internet Utility, the Electric Debt Service Fund, and the Water Wastewater Utility Fund. Most of those are all ones that we had talked about this summer when we did our budget, because those are items that had changes. We'll go through all those, and that will be in my staff report for the next meeting as to why we're proposing those. But most of those are funds that we had, I think with the exception of the Economic Development Fund, those were all ones we had talked about this summer.
So we'll have a opportunity to address each and every one of those funds at the meeting on December 22nd.
Yeah, for the amendments, yes.
This resolution is just this.
It sets
This
that
is just
public hearing.
action to set that date as the time to discuss that.
Yes.
Thank you. I move to set the public hearing for the 2015 budget amendments for Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin to set a public hearing for the 2015 budget amendments for Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015 at 6:30 p.m. Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye. Resolution number R-15-161, a resolution to approve an economic development incentive package for Project Bike. Assistant to the City Manager, Trish Perdun, will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you.
It's been a long time coming, but we have some exciting news to announce tonight. We have a new business coming to Coffeyville. They have signed a contract to purchase the former Dixon building out in our industrial park. The company is MJD Products out of Parsons, Kansas. Darren Alexander owns this company. It's a family-run company. Currently, him, his brother, and another family member. They make custom parts, sub-assemblies, and sub-assemblies for local area manufacturers. They specialize in carbon and stainless steel and also use aluminum in their manufacturing. They came to the city of Coffeyville in late September, early October, contacted me about the Dixon building, and I let them know that the building was currently vacant. It would be ideal for someone similar to them, had been used in similar operations in the past. We worked with them to try to negotiate with the owner of the building even to try to get that price down even lower for them. In the end, they end up going through a realtor and have signed a contract to purchase this building. We're very excited. They are the type of company that the commission has even said they want us to target. They are the entrepreneurs that have grown their business and are ready to now expand. In 2015, they purchased a laser cutting machine. That grew their business dramatically, and now they're well beyond the current capacity of their building. They have orders that they are turning away and can't fulfill because they are at capacity in this building. They plan on hiring 30 employees in the first year, primarily welders, sheet metal, people to operate the heavy machinery, the laser cutters, the robots that they will have to operate their business. They wanted to be conservative with their employee estimates, but they do expect to even grow further. But as a good entrepreneur, he knows he doesn't want to extend his numbers past what he knows he can meet. So they're anticipating 30, at least in the first year, but who knows how much they could grow to in the next 5. We worked with the county, Montgomery County Action Council, the college, and the chamber diligently over the last 2 months to get this deal put together. We worked to make sure they understood all of the incentives that would be available, not just from the city, but from the county, the opportunities they would have with the college for future training opportunities, the excellent work that's been done with the chamber to help recruit employees. Speaking of Darren Alexander, you have a seat if you want, or you can come up here. I don't care. This is Darren Alexander. He is the CEO of MJD Products. He was busy working, so trying to get his business going. So I'll let you introduce yourself. If you want.
I'm Darren Alexander. I'm sorry I'm late. We've got a job that has to ship, and apparently we worry more about getting parts to our customers on time than me to city commission meetings, so I apologize for that. We're very excited about the possibility and everything we can do here. I've actually lived here when I was in Coffeyville, playing at the JUCO, and we're very excited. We can do a lot of things, and
Not really expecting to come in and make a speech.
Sorry.
probably.
sorry.
You walked in the middle. You could have just sat there.
Actually, my wife and I, she's actually going and getting trinkets for you guys, but we went to the other, where the city, your office is,
yes.
and we've been all around, so I'm so sorry for being late, but
We're glad you found us. Not only us, but the city of Coffeyville in general. And I don't want to interrupt your presentation, but I'd sure like to welcome you to Coffeyville.
thank you.
You can have her give a speech too.
Your wife want to give a speech also?
I know
You can go ahead and
guys
start
have
handing
seen
those
it.
out, and I'll.
This is some of the equipment we have now. You guys are more than welcome to these. We make these every 14 seconds. We hand them out by the hundreds because they're pretty impressive.
Hence Project Bike.
This is kind of the capabilities of our machine. That's actually 3/16 stainless. We do a lot of stainless work. We can do a lot of other things with it, but it's kind of shows the intricacy that can do it. When we cut material, we're talking about 3.5 to 4 thousandths, which is the width that we take out. We're talking about human hair is about 3.5, so it's
Pretty intricate
very
work.
intricate work. We can do everything from as small as this to, we've done assemblies 20,000 pounds, 100-pound beams, inch-and-a-half plate. We kind of can do the whole gamut, and with the equipment we're looking at purchasing in the next week, we can do stuff that in our current building, we have a path through our building right now trying to get parts in and out. We moved 6 skids to be able to get to 1 sheet of metal today, and so that's why we look at the square footage, and this is going to be a great fit for us.
Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for considering Coffeyville and making Coffeyville your new home for your business.
As part of the process of recruiting MJD products to our community and helping them cover the cost of relocating to our community, we offered them a package of incentives to help them cover this cost. I'm presenting that information to you today for review and approval if you're amenable to that. In February of 2015, the Commission passed a set of incentive guidelines, and we followed those incentive guidelines to put this package together. Those guidelines are based on local hires, the number of jobs that would be created. Therefore, we put together a package for them of 2 different tiers. Initially, they were interested in possibly being annexed into the city. We're still discussing that. If they do not annex, they would be eligible for at least a $15,000 cash incentive that would cover relocation costs, any initial startup costs to get them up and running in that building. It could go up to $22,500. That is if all 30 employees are local hires in the USD, in the school district boundaries. With the salary that they anticipate, that they provided to us, we definitely anticipate getting our money back on that incentive within the 10-year period that's in our incentive guidelines. There's actually I put together a cost. Basically, you could see of how fast we would recoup those costs, even if we give them the maximum incentive, meaning that they actually annex into the city, that they would be eligible for a $33,750 incentive. We would still see a total return on investment in the black. So we'd be up $445. That's assuming that their employees shop local and those tax incentives based on Department of Commerce information that they provided to us, what employees spend annually. If they do not annex, we definitely see our payoff in 10 years of at least $11,000 cushion. So the return on investment is definitely good per the incentive guidelines that you passed. In addition, we were not the only entity offering them an incentive. The county offered them a cash incentive as well. They will have to approve that at the next county commission meeting on Monday of $1,000 per person. That is paid out annually over a period of 5 years. So it's structured so that they turn in their employee accounts and the county makes sure that those employees actually are in fact employed there, and they write them a check. So ours is up front to really focus on relocation costs, because we know that's one of the biggest hindrances for any company moving. So the county wants to make sure that they help them in those future costs. So that's how we structured the package. I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have on this proposal and the business.
How long have you guys been in business?
We have been in business since 2012, when we filed our formation papers. Our family, we sold another business that we owned that had been in business since 1927. And myself, my brother, my dad, and that business, my dad started running it since forever ago is what I tell him, but since 1970 he's been running that. Then we took over part of the leadership of that business, and then we sold it, and we've restructured. So I mean, depending on how you want to figure it, we can go back to 1927 or we can go back to 3-4 years ago. So I mean, we've got the experience of running it. Whenever we've done, before we purchased a business that we had 3 employees, walked into 30 employees into the business that was failing, turned it around, made a successful business. So we've got experience that if you just look at our company itself, it's a 3-year-old company. But with what we've done before and what we can offer, it's a lot more than a 3-year-old business.
Okay.
There would also be one point I forgot to mention. This is structured as a forgivable loan rather than an upfront just grant. That way, it's structured as per the incentive guidelines. We want to make sure that the city is protected, and our economic development dollars are also protected in that way. So.
Okay. Any further questions? Everybody started out at some point, every large industrial business started out saying we're just a 3-year-old company.
Right.
And then and look where some of those are today. So like I said, as far as I'm concerned, I think this is a good effort between the city, the county, and the Montgomery County Action Council. And I think this is a positive move for our community as well as our region, because I think that not only as time goes on that this could be a tremendous impact for not only our community but other surrounding communities as well as this business continues to blossom. I truly hope so. As far as I'm concerned, you have my vote.
I move to approve resolution R-15-161.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Castler to approve resolution number R-15-161 for adoption. Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
your time. Look forward to working with you guys.
We do too. Thank you
you.
very much. That concludes tonight's regular business. We have a couple of items on the agenda, such as discussion of employee residential requirements and some city manager report and discussion on municipal facilities and comments from commissioners and staff. However, before we proceed to those discussions, I'm going to call for a 7-minute break. The time now is 7:15. Let's reconvene at 7:22. No, I'm good.
My glasses there.
Ready?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to reconvene the meeting. Next item on the agenda is discussion on employee residency requirements. Commissioner Martin, I think you're the person that requested this be put on the agenda.
Yeah. It was after a little discussion. I've got several friends of mine that live outside the city, so I'll probably get lynched when I get home later. But and I'm not talking about anybody that works here now, so I don't want anybody to get too excited. I'm not asking you to move to town. I understand grandfather clauses and all that. I think that we have some employees who makes pretty good money, and we've got a lot of empty houses in this town. That'd be one way to fill some of them. I have to live in the city limits. Kendall has to live in the city limits. I don't see why it would be such a stretch to ask somebody to come into town that's going to make a living off the city not to live in town. I don't see the downside. I mean, I've heard some things, but if you know right up front what the requirements are to be employed at the city of Coffeyville, I don't think it'd be an issue. Then you'd have to make a decision on whether or not you're willing to meet those requirements. I've heard people say, well, I can't live in the city because of this and that. I can't move out of Coffeyville because of this and that. So it's just a decision you have to make and whether or not it'll fit into your life. I'm sure I've got more. You guys start a discussion about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think building on that a little bit, it adds a little bit of a commitment. Your favorite saying, Justin, is to have skin in the game, so to speak, and I think that I could see the benefit of having that. I'm not opposed to being on board with that.
Is this governed by contract?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me.
Is the residential requirements written into the contracts with the unions?
The MOAs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you would have to renegotiate all these contracts, is that correct?
On future hires for represented positions, I believe so, yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, currently, assuming that we get a contract extension for another year, any position that we hire in that year's time that's covered by a contract, I would expect we'd have to renegotiate to be able to make them required to live within the city limits, because currently it's the school district is the boundaries.
Aren't you currently in negotiations, though?
We are currently in negotiations.
So you could actually negotiate that now. You wouldn't have to renegotiate.
We could negotiate that now. They actually asked for it to be expanded.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And
What are the reasons they asked for that?
they don't ever really give reasons, but I think a lot of it is just to have a choice of where they live. And we were pretty candid that they should be content with what they got, and that we had no desire to expand it, and that we felt that if anything it could be shrunk.
Well, it's been expanded twice over the past 15, 20 years, hasn't it?
I believe that's true. I know. Did you put that in the packet?
As far as renegotiating, I don't know how this particular union works, but we have letters of agreement that you can do outside of negotiations, so it's not as scary of a deal as it sounds to renegotiate something.
No, I'm not saying that it is.
I understand.
I think the residency requirement is addressed in the personnel manual, the memorandum of agreement, but it flows from an ordinance. So you all have the say as the commission as to what you want to set as the residency boundary. And it has gone through changes over the past couple of decades, if not more.
So the language in the contract directs you to the ordinance.
I don't know that there's a specific reference. I've tried to pull it up real quick and I didn't find anything, but there is an ordinance. The last time that it was revised was in 2009.
Is this an urgent matter you discuss tonight, or can we table this and wait, or what?
Why do we need to table
We're
it?
discussing.
Because I haven't had time, I mean,
So you don't want to talk about it?
well, number one, we don't have all commissioners here. Number two, I think it needs, I think it needs to be left alone, in my opinion. We have a shortage of housing, good housing.
I got 6 empty houses and 3 blocks from my house.
Are they quality houses?
Are they in
Are
your
they ones
neighborhood?
that higher ups want to move into?
I would say so. They're $50,000, $60,000 homes or more.
What are other places doing?
You have it in the packet.
It's in your report.
I believe there's 51 cities that responded to my request. They outlined the requirements for their senior staff, their city managers, and their emergency service personnel, as well as their line employees. Of the 51, 2, I believe, said that they require city employees to live within the city limits, and that was Wyandotte, KCK, Johnson County, Wyandotte, the collaborated government, and the city of Ottawa. Since that time that we put this out, I received approximately 5 more. All said essentially the same thing, that they had a response time as what dictated where you could live within a certain minute response time. I would point out that we currently, and tonight is an example, offer incentives to businesses outside the city limits. It's often stated that's what is good for Montgomery County is good for Coffeyville. To say that an employee is paid by tax dollars must live within the city is counterintuitive to business incentives that we offer to someone who may not be in the city limits.
They're not an employee of the city.
That's true, they're not, but it's still tax dollars that you're offering.
Well, I'm talking about employees, not business.
But I think the heart of it is the tax money. Is that not correct? The salaries that are paid?
It's not what my real issue is.
Okay.
I hear stuff on the street like some people that live outside town. I don't want to live in that town. It's dirty. Well, if the home team ain't playing on the field, why would anybody else want to join? You know, I mean, he says it, skin in the game. That's how I see it. And if you got cows and you can't live in town, maybe you don't need this job. I don't know. I mean, I don't have cows. I don't need to move out the country.
I am concerned that it would limit our already shallow applicant pool.
You moved to town. You moved for a good job. I don't move because of my job. So to say that, if they know the requirements when they apply, I don't see what the problem would be. Here's the rules. You want to play by them? Sure, great. If not, there's plenty of places to work.
Do we have a breakdown, like a percentage of the number of currently employed people who live outside of the city?
I don't know if I have it in a percentage. I believe that
So
I have some
what you're
information.
essentially saying is that if you're a parent and you have children who are in FFA, if you have children who are in 4-H, who have projects, they raise animals for the fair, and they show them every year and travel around, we don't want you working for the city of Coffeyville. Stay where you're at.
Well,
Don't come here.
If that's how you want to spin that, that's your choice.
Well,
That's kind
that's
of
how I'm spending it.
well,
That's what you're saying.
That is not at all what I'm saying. If you
And-
listen
and
to what
the-
I said,
and
hold
the
on, man.
thing-
I get to rebut to what you said. If they're living someplace and they need a job and they come to Kendall and say, I need a job, and he says, you got to live here, they know that. It's not unfair. Here's the rules. Live by them.
Okay. if there's a gentleman or a young lady who lives just outside the city limits that can fill this job and has an existing position or an existing home outside the city limits, and we have a position that is not filled, and that person's qualified, we're not going to fill that position with a qualified person who lives a quarter of a mile outside the city limits because they don't want to sell their house and their property and move a quarter mile inside of town?
Just to clarify, the scenario you're putting forward would be more, I would imagine, upper level, and we already have requirements for the city manager and department heads to reside within city limits, correct?
Why would it be upper level? We hire people all the time.
So why is that acceptable for upper level management to be required to live in town? but not-
The department heads are not required to live.
Okay, well, other cities, I should have clarified, have that.
You're exactly right. They're not required to live in. They're required to live within the boundaries that are set forth, existing boundaries by the city. I'm just saying that you're excluding good qualified people who would be able to fill positions
Not
in the
exclude
city
them at all.
for qualified positions. And the other thing is that we have a difficult time now trying to fill certain positions like the electric lineman position or something like that. Not saying that couldn't be done, but I'm just saying that I'm not going to vote to restrict someone who may live, just outside the city limits from filling a job here inside the city limits that's qualified for that position.
What if you-
And I'm not saying that I would vote to expand the living requirements to where they could live anywhere. I'm just saying that a certain boundary, I think, is appropriate.
In response to Commissioner Powell's question, we currently have 75 full-time employees who live within the city limits, so we're roughly 50%.
50% of the city?
Yeah.
Staff lives within the city limits.
Yes.
I just got a text message from a resident that says they do 4-H, raise animals, and they live in town.
Well, vote appropriately. And I'm sure that there's probably city employees that have larger operations that work for the city that can't live in town. So it's
Well, it's just-
however you feel necessary to vote is how you
You
vote.
said current employees. I'm not talking about current employees. I'm talking about future employees.
Exactly.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying. You're talking about current employees. This issue's not
Okay, I
current
misspoke.
employees.
I think it will create a situation where we may have employees who manipulate the system by claiming an address within the city limits. It would be hard to enforce and to catch them at it, I guess, for lack of a better word. Whether
You're
you
gonna hire somebody of that character, I wouldn't want them employed anyway.
I'm just, yeah, that's possibly a good point.
I thought it was worth discussing. I don't understand
Yeah,
why it's so offensive to even put it out there. It seems like it's pushing all these buttons. I don't.
I just think we're barking up the wrong tree. I think we got other things on our plate, and I don't to worry about.
You haven't given no real good reasons why you don't like it, though.
I don't like it because it's restrictive and it's not very good for recruiting.
Well, I don't understand why.
And I
it's
want to
not.
know what houses you are looking at that are so great.
Why don't you come over by my
Because
house
I don't
and
think
I'll
those
show you.
people who are looking for are going to qualify for down there by the Brown Estate.
Well, I live over by you, so
Well, we don't
Okay.
need to,
hey, I'm just,
Well,
trying to hit the comment.
the thing is that we're getting into a tit for tat, and that's not what this is.
Well, that's not how that was presented.
What is
This is
what
about-
is the current? Is it a radius or?
School district boundaries.
I mean, what was it before? when the first time it was stretched out.
I'd have to go back.
have to-
I looked, oh, you've got it?
January 27th, 1982, as conditions of employment shall be residents of the state of Kansas and must live within Township 34, 35, South, Range 16, 17, East, Montgomery County. I can't even begin to tell you what that means. And then in 2001, it was expanded to the USD 445 boundaries.
Which, how far out is that?
The green is the,
Somewhere other side of 10th Street Road.
yeah, it
It goes.
encompasses
County Road
3,500, yeah.
What I call Pump Station Road to the north.
Is that Turkey Farm Road, what you're talking about?
No, pump station all the way to the north, a little, where the road construction
Oh.
is. That's halfway to Independence.
Green is the USD 445.
So we go north of Liberty, all the way out here, past Deering, looks like 2 county roads. So we're 2 miles, 2.5 miles west of Deering. And 2 miles north of Liberty. That's all I got for right now.
Any additional questions or comments? Discussion on municipal facilities project.
What? No.
Who put this on the agenda?
I
Pardon
don't
me?
know.
I asked for it.
Okay.
Commissioner Powell and Commissioner Taylor also at the last meeting asked that we come forward with some, asked that we would contact a local contractor, present them with the floor plans that we have laid out, and ask them to give us an estimated cost, which I did, and I sent that information. We received that today, so I sent that to you today. We contacted a local contractor, asked them to give us, take a look at the floor plans that we have envisioned, and to put a cost per square foot to that remodel of City Hall. We can make that available to the public. Like I said, we received that today. Feel pretty fortunate that they were able to do that for us free of charge. But they have estimated that the cost of remodeling to be $145 to $155 a square foot. And at the 11,000 square feet, give me a second, I will call that up. That is remodeling 11,500 square feet of first and second floor. And our estimated cost for remodeling was $1.7 million. The range that was provided by this contractor for remodeling 11,500 square feet puts it a range of 1.6 to 1.78 million. And I can get you those exact numbers in a second.
Go back to what you just said.
Okay. In the plan that I proposed to you in August, we budgeted $1.7 million for renovation of second and third floor. And that does not include the windows or the staircase. That is just for office space remodeling.
That is not for the windows in City Hall.
Correct. That 1.7 doesn't, we separated that out in our original proposal. We separated it out at $500,000.
So actually, we're talking $2.2 million?
Actually, we're talking $3 million for renovation of City Hall in my original plan. But for the portion of office space, we had budgeted $1.7 million. The contractor's estimate of $145 to $155 a square foot times the 11,500 square feet that we estimate remodeling gives us a range of $1,667,500 to $1,782,500. So that is right within our estimated costs that we gave you in August.
When you say your original plan,
The original plan that I presented to you in August,
yeah, I thought we were still working on the same plan. Boy, I tell you what, we got some lack of communication here, because I have no idea what you're talking about, your original plan and this plan here.
okay, maybe I should not have used the word original. The plan that I presented to you in August, we budgeted $1.7 million for renovations.
Yeah.
The contractor's estimate that we received today puts it right in the middle of that estimate.
Yeah. Then you just said my original plan was $3 million.
Total renovation of City Hall is $3 million.
Okay. Yeah,
So the 500,000
it's
is
just a way of saying it, I guess, I'm sorry.
windows.
$500,000 was budgeted for windows.
But you're getting some kind of grant for that, or some kind of, right, you're applying for a,
We are applying for tax credits,
And how much is
but
so where's the 500,000?
that is what we budgeted for the cost of windows.
Is there anything in the plan there to, when that mold expert, for lack of a better word, come to town and look at the building, they said we needed to pull the dirt back from the building and seal the foundation and all that good stuff to keep the water from out. Is that in the plan as well?
We believe that they fixed the downspouts that we believe were the cause of that water coming down to the sides of the building. Those, when the roof was fixed, those downspouts were also fixed. So, in short, no, we have not made any accommodations for pulling dirt back away from the building.
Was the bid for the windows including their recommendation also to tear out the sheetrock underneath the windows and replace all that?
The windows are simply for the removal of the existing windows and installing the new ones.
So we're not doing a whole lot from the recommendation of the mold people. They wanted to tear everything out underneath the window and the sheetrock because they said there was, possibility of mold underneath there.
And when those windows are replaced, the whole frame and everything will be
Well,
replaced.
they was talking about sheetrock down to the floor. That's the way it was presented anyway.
Okay.
Is in a big report.
So the additional $800,000 to get to that 3 million, what's that for?
Give me just a second. $500,000 for windows, $300,000 for asbestos, $1.7 million for renovation, $200,000 for contingency and fees, $300,000 or $200,000 for staircase, and then $100,000 for mold remediation and remodel, and that is for the third floor, and essentially what we've, because there is still some sheetrock and stuff to be removed on the third floor.
Do we have any money for what I call Murphy's Law type of stuff where
We have $200,000 built in as a contingency and for contingency and fees.
basically just in case something happens?
In the contractor's notes to us, he included $100,000 contingency.
What was the total amount of what the contractor?
$100,000 contingencies.
No, I mean the total whole thing.
$3 million.
3 million?
Pardon me?
3 million?
I did not take the time to add it up. I was looking at,
Well, Decker come back with 1.7. You got 500 for windows, you got 200 for contingencies, you got, how much for mold
200,000
remediation?
for the staircase and 100,000 for mold remediation.
How much was for asbestos, 200,000?
we put in $300,000. However,
Well over $3 million, pretty quick.
no, our plan total budget is $3 million. $500,000 was budgeted for windows. $300,000 is budgeted for asbestos removal. Renovation is 1.7, and then the contingency fees is 200,000. That is a total of 2.7. Then the final 300,000 is $200,000 for a staircase, and then $100,000 for mold remediation and a remodel, and that's for the third floor. So that's a total of $3 million.
And then all the rest of the $11 million that you presented is for the PD and FD.
I presented a plan, total plan of $8 million. The plan,
So that
once the total cost, including,
How much money have we already spent out of the rainy day fund, CRNF fund, whatever you want to call it?
Stephanie, do you have that total? The total plan cost, including financing and construction costs, that I presented in August was $9,787,386. That is $8 million for construction of a standalone as well as a remodel of City Hall, and then $1.787 for financing cost.
To date, we've spent $3,205,990.72. The sales tax has brought in $763,450.
So we've spent, with the budget, if you put the two numbers together, 12.9 million, roughly.
If you were to spend that 8 million.
It'd be 12.9 million.
Okay.
And do you got any contingency budget planned in for the PD and FD?
There are some contingencies. We have instructed our design build team that $5 million is the cap. That is the top of the budget.
We didn't know how the budgets work.
Okay. But you're asking me to account for $3 million that I had nothing to do with, but you asked me to come in here and fix the problem that was started before I showed up. I presented you a plan, a very good plan.
You don't need to get all upset.
Hold on.
The prices that we gave you were confirmed today by a local contractor.
Well, I'm sure we're spending a lot of money. I have no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
Just one last thing. So on the combined services building, what was the cost per square foot to build the combined services building?
And we're hearing, we have a range of, Dennis, help me out here, 175 to 250, depending on fixtures and site costs and those types of things.
How did we go from Citizens Advisory Panel of 3.5 to that? That's significantly what's $1.5 million more?
I can't speak to the Citizens Advisory Panel.
Well, you can speak to your budget. I mean, they recommended a certain amount, and now everybody knows my opinion, but let's say I just get on board with what the Citizens Advisory Panel said, we're still at $1.5
And I think we were budgeting $200 per square foot at 25,000 square feet.
Let me just, through all the back and forth, I totally missed the number that you put out earlier. I just need the number again.
Okay. Over to the right-hand side, the 3.2 million, that's the total cost for each that we have spent to date or that we have encumbered to spend. There are some that we still owe some funds to.
How much is the, with zero growth, Kendall, how much is the sales tax through the 15 years expected to bring in?
I should have brought my glasses.
Should have brought my aspirin.
Stephanie, point me in the right direction. Yeah, remember, here's what I need. Thanks. Sales tax, capital project sales tax. Okay, ask the question again.
How much is the tax resolution with zero growth going to bring in over the life of the tax?
Current sales tax revenue projected out to
No.
2029 would be 9.1 million.
9.1 million?
The what we believe to be, let's see, the budgeted historic, and I believe this is in your packet. These are numbers that Commissioner Powell asked us to put together. We have 1, 2, 3. We have six forecasted from extreme loss of jobs. Also, our current sales tax, historical average, conservative forecast, our budgeted historical, and our optimistic forecast.
I'm just asking, with zero growth over the 15-year period of collecting the sales tax, what is the total amount?
9.1 million.
9.1.
So with absolute zero growth, going with the budget that we have going forward today, we're negative $3.8 million. Right? 'Cause just a while ago you said 12.9.
I did not say 12.9. I said
Well,
9,787,386.
We're adding on the money we already spent, because that's still money spent, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care if you call it free money or a gift from God, it's still money spent, so.
Can I
Sure, go ahead.
ask a question? So we spent $3.2 million as of right now. Over the 15-year sales tax, it is expected to bring in $9.1 million.
And
If so, I,
just a second, Mayor.
what was your question?
The current sales tax, when was that? What is that figured off of? Is that pre hotel, pre expansions?
include the cost benefits that Springstead put together for all of it. All those numbers include that, although a very small percentage is included in that number. So I think it's like 10% of any sales tax we would even expect from Holiday Inn is included in their zero growth.
Okay.
Because no matter what, there's going to be at least a room rented. We'll receive some sales tax from that.
Okay.
And that comes from Springstead's analysis that they helped us with.
I think and I'm just going to clarify this one more time before I say what I'm going to say. Over the 15-year lifespan of this sales tax with zero growth, it is expected to bring in $9.1 million.
Correct.
To this date, we have spent $3.2 million out
Yes.
of the sales, or the fund that was generated from the settlement of the taxes that were collected from a local business that went through the court process, yada, yada.
That is accurate.
That's 3.2. The simplest way to solve this, I mean, obviously, we have to do, I agree with what Ms. Jones said earlier. I'd like to go through this whole thing and not spend anything. We've got to watch our money, okay? But we can't leave police in a snack bar, and you can't leave City Hall in a trailer park. The simplest way to do this is just like you would do it at your house, is set a budget. Here's the budget, here's what you have to spend. Figure out what you need using this budget. That's the simplest way to do it. It's not, I'm sorry, but it's not unlike anything that you would do at your own house. You set a budget. If I'm gonna go buy a car, I'm gonna know how much I can spend before I go to Tulsa or wherever I'm gonna shop local. So I'm gonna go to Tulsa to pick up flyers so I could order a car here local. But but you have a budget. And I'm not proposing what that budget is, but I'm thinking that it would, 'cause at that point, we know what we're going to spend and what we have spent. We know now that we have spent $3.2 million. If we set a budget at whatever that budget is, we walk out whatever day we talk about this budget, and we know that's what we're going to spend. Because we're not going to spend $1, 1 cent over that budget, period. And if we do, then someone's going to be accountable for spending over that amount. I think that's the easiest way to come out of this situation. Because we've got ourselves in we're up here 3 years later still arguing about things that we're arguing about 2 years ago. I mean, we've gotten no further.
Well, that $3.2 million is not just City Hall. I mean, that's the Youth Activity Center, that's the library, that's several things.
Okay.
And so,
Okay, so we need to clarify that. We have spent, what have we spent on the remodel of all these municipal buildings? I'm not talking about storm sirens. I'm not talking about putting, other projects that we've done that the city commission has approved. I'm talking simply about, we're talking about the municipal facilities project. What have we spent as a community on this municipal facilities project?
Including architectural fees and all that.
The whole
I want to
gamut,
I want to remind of a conversation we had
3.2.
a while back. I mentioned, why don't we just fund the project from the CRNF fund? I'm not an economist. It's like, hey, I got a lot of money here. It was pointed out to me, and rightly so, that that money isn't earmarked for any one thing, but the tax money is. Well, and that was very good. I think it was Craig that said that. But now we have spent $3.2 million of that money that was and is not earmarked for anything. So we kind of went back on what we said there.
I think we should just set a budget.
Check this out.
So I had a question before you get off on that. The cost per square foot to renovate City Hall that you turned in just now that you got, $155 per square foot. You said the cost for the combined services building somewhere between $175 to $250 per square foot. That seems to go completely contrary to the concept that building new is cheaper. I'm just trying to reconcile those two things.
Some of it has to do with what you're building, hardened spaces, secured spaces for police department. So it's different kind of construction than what we're talking about in City Hall.
What is this?
City Hall that previously had a police department in it.
$9.1 million.
Yes, but it wasn't built this century.
3.2 you've already spent.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to get personal. I'm just trying to reconcile the fact that it was presented as a very major thing, that it's cheaper to build new than it is to renovate, and these numbers are not.
Not by me, it wasn't.
I don't. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Before you got here, that was part of the discussion. You know.
Right. And I understand that, but in answer to your question, it is what we're constructing. We have reduced square footage substantially. We've reduced hardened spaces within the combined.
How have you reduced square footage substantially?
We've removed sally ports. We've removed truck bays. We've prioritized what needed to be included in the facility. We have shared spaces, try to utilize shared spaces between the two departments.
I took part in a mistake of getting rid of the Citizens Advisory Panel too soon. You guys know how I feel.
So, where were you going with your line of thinking? 9.1.
My
million.
line of thinking?
9.1 million.
My line of thinking is you figure out what you want to spend or don't want to spend, and you come up with a budget, and that's what you go off of.
Here's one line of thinking. I'm not saying I'm proposing this, but you collect 9.1 million over 15 years. You pay back 3.2. That leaves you $5.9 million. That is $900,000 more than the Citizens Advisory Panel recommended. And that is zero growth. God help us if we don't grow. We need to grow.
I think it's obvious we are growing, and there's stuff in the works.
Yeah, great, we are growing, but there's no reason to spend like you're gonna get a $1 million job next year when you ain't applied for it yet.
I can agree with that, but I ask you to give it patience and time.
I've been here 2 years. I've seen 2 businesses leave. I've seen 1 come in.
If I could, I'd like to address Commissioner Martin's plan.
That's, which plan are you talking about?
The
My
one
old
that-
plan or my original plan?
The plan that you just proposed in the newspaper.
All right.
Okay.
I've been talking about that for about a year now, but go ahead.
Okay. Well,
That's my original plan.
your original plan. based on the numbers that we have, and I will share this with anybody that wants, total cost is $8,090,000. That keeps staff separated, inefficient. It adds expenditures of Eighth and Buckeye remaining in place.
Which is wildly popular with the community.
And wildly unpopular with staff and wildly inefficient
Who are we working
for a business.
Staff or the taxpayer? I think we forget we're a service industry.
We are a service entry, and we intend to build that service and that
As long as we understand.
into City Hall. We still have to be efficient. You know, you're called for to wait on the fire department. I'm afraid it'll be next to never, you know, if we wait. And
Why, because of bad planning or what? If you come up with a plan in the budget, you can get stuff done. We have a problem with not having a good plan.
okay. Like I said, I'd just like to point out that it's essentially the same cost as the plan that we're putting forth.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying there, but this plan's too much money. That's how I feel about it, and I won't vote for it. You guys vote how you want to vote. You don't remodel your house by going in and gutting the whole thing out and then rebuilding new. You do it a little bit at a time. Now, I understand we can't do that on some things. I'm not okay with the police department being in the snack bar. It's not going to work. And we do need some new construction at the FD. I'm not sure how to get all this done. I'm not a contractor, I'm not an engineer, but numbers on the wall say that we're not there.
So just to clarify how you came to the 0% growth, what would we be able to sustain in order to still generate that 9.1 million? I see 350 jobs. Where did that number come from?
You asked us to calculate negative growth, so we simulated the loss of a major employer. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because I want to address that. It was poor judgment on our part to include two large employers to name two large employers without clarifying to the public what we were talking about. We put this in an agenda and didn't explain that this was a worst case scenario if something happened, you know, if this happened.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetical. And obviously you can create rumors and things like that. I want to make it clear that neither of these businesses are planning to go anywhere, but it was, you know, we were asked to present what happens if something like that were to occur, and that's what we chose these two businesses. I've spoken to both the CEOs of those businesses to apologize for putting it out like that. We could have done better.
One of them spoke to me. I don't think he's majorly upset. He just said, if you hear it, this is what's going on. We are not shutting down.
Yeah, but again, it just wasn't good practice, and I take responsibility for that. But that's where the 350 jobs, you know, that's what we thought would be negative growth, and so that's what we calculated off of.
So the takeaway is we could sustain a 350 job loss and still pay for this, is where you're competitive.
The takeaway would be that it's $8.8 million if we sustained a 350 job loss. That's what we would estimate it. Now, we'll also remind you that in our plan, in my plan that I presented, $500,000 for windows. The numbers that we're receiving are closer to the $300,000, $325,000 for window replacement. I believe it was $300,000 for asbestos removal. We have since determined that encapsulating the asbestos would be, which would have to happen to level the floors, would be significantly cheaper than $300,000. So there are some fluff. There's some fluff built into the plan. One thing that I intended to speak to later in my report is that we are experiencing some issues with the elevator now. There is one of the hydraulic valves is malfunctioning, and the elevator is not stopping all the time on the correct floor. Those parts are no longer available, so we're looking at what the cost of repairs would be. It would be retrofitting, upgrading the system, and then so we're trying to find out what that would cost and a timeline for that. We would estimate $200,000 to replace the elevator, $200,000 to $250,000 if we had to do that. That was never in consideration in any plan at any time. So that is something that we have to be mindful of.
Okay.
Just need to figure out a budget. That should just be it.
That's what I said.
I agree with you. However you do it, we just, amongst the five of us, need to come up with how much we're willing to spend and let him spend it. But then, breathe it. Just need to figure that out.
So you like my plan?
No, I like my plan better. I'd like to pay that money back. Pointed out, that money is not pigeonholed for anything. And if you're trying to get people to come into town, you may need some more money for more economic development, which will cause growth, which causes more sales tax revenue, which may cause you to be able to expand something in the future.
And along that line, we set back $2.5 million for economic development, and we just spent 20, whatever, between 23 and 33,000. I think we just need to come up with a budget.
It's not a good plan.
Any additional comments or discussion on this municipal facilities project? City manager report.
Well, maybe can we clarify what direction you would like us to take?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
I think we, as a commission, need to give him a budget within the next very short period of time. I mean, I'm talking like next meeting or two. We need to have our stuff together.
With all due respect, it needs to be much quicker than that.
Hell, do it not. $5 million.
No, we do have a design build team that is working now on the standalone. We have other directions that we need to be moving on.
Well, Mr. Taylor would be very upset if he wasn't involved in this, so I'm not going to make a motion or even second one to do it tonight. I say you put it on the agenda for December 22nd. Mr. Powell, Williams, Kessler?
Do you want us to, would you like me to, I don't know, how do you want me to proceed? Do I just bring you what the plans are and what we think they're going to cost, or?
I don't know what they need.
I mean, for you to just arbitrarily put out a dollar figure, and it will be hard. Will be hard for you to know what you could possibly obtain with that dollar figure.
Well, the problem wouldn't be what I could obtain, it'd be what you could obtain with what we decide to give you to spend.
Okay.
I mean,
Fair enough.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful. That's your job to figure out how to spend it. I'm just supposed to tell you how much to spend, and they're supposed to tell me if I'm doing wrong.
Okay.
And they're telling me I'm doing wrong.
I just want to clarify, when you talk about the facilities panel and the amount that they recommended, they thought that you can build an emergency services facility for $150 a square foot. The last building that they toured in Eudora, I talked to the architect, and he said you can't even build that building for that.
We probably ought to get them back in here and find out what they meant. Talked to Rick on the phone today. He was still convinced you could do it for 3.5.
Well, and I also have to say that no one on that committee asked the fire chief what you needed in that building.
That would have been a mistake. I mean, I'll give you that much.
That panel also recommended the 11th and Gillum site.
Yeah, we know I don't agree, but, you know, there's always room for negotiation, but I can't agree to spend this kind of money.
Well, I guess my point is, if we're going to agree with the panel, well then let's agree with the panel. Let's don't pick little bits of it, out of it that we do like.
I could do that. That'd be $5 million. You guys want to do that? 3.5 for you and 1.5 for them. We could do that. Pay back 3.2. It's a great idea.
So should we discuss this again on the 22nd of December?
If you weren't here, we wouldn't be discussing this December 22nd.
Do what?
What I'm saying is, if you weren't going to be at the meeting December 22nd, or now, we wouldn't. I wouldn't want to take a vote.
I'm not calling for a vote. I'm just simply asking.
Yeah. Well, Taylor's going to want to have an opinion.
Well, he's going to be here the 22nd, isn't he?
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, he'll be here if he finds out this is going to be on.
Well, that's why I asked if we would discuss this on the 22nd of December again, so all of us could be here.
Let's put that on December 22nd, and
Again, how do you want us to present that to you?
Bring us everything you have, all your plans, your cost estimates for what you have at the present day.
Okay.
That way, we'll all be here on the 22nd, and we can discuss this further with all the commissioners present, with all the information that you have at this time.
I'm assuming I know the answer to this, but the route you're headed on now, there's absolutely nothing that could be cut out in order to make it cheaper. I know that's a general question with a lot of details. I'm just asking that conceivably. I mean, because the way it's being presented is it's impossible to consider it costing any less than what you're telling us. That's the vibe that I'm getting from you.
And not to be flippant, we could not put up walls. I mean,
That's a little ridiculous.
I know.
About ways to scale back on the square footage.
The square footage of City Hall or of the standalone?
Standalone facility.
Okay, we sat down the first and we gave them our wish list, and we came in at $8.3 million. And we knew that it needed to be 5. So that's when we started scaling back, prioritizing what needed to be included in both of them, how we could better share space, what type of fixtures would be included, those types of things. And then we're we're asking them to, refine the details so that it fits within the budget that we said it has to be under. But we believe that we have reduced it as much as square foot wise as is possible. Anything less, and we really you're not building the sufficient building that we need. But it is considerably less than our wish list would include.
Well, I would say that because I know that there seems to be frustration, or I'm in no way wanting to stop everything. I'm reconciling the fact that we have a problem that we need to fix, and that we have the police department in the snack bar of the hospital. Cannot continue to have that. Fire department is in horrible condition. Obviously, something needs to be done, but on the flip side, we don't want to spend more money than we have. It's as simple as that. Not stepping on any toes. That's what we're trying to achieve. Not to stop everything completely. At least that's my opinion.
Well said.
Stephanie, what is the balance of the CRNF fund? $1.87.
How much?
$1.87 million.
Thank you.
That's what's left in CRNF?
Correct.
So on the 22nd of December, we'll discuss this again when Commissioner Taylor Jr. can be present.
Could we commit to the fact that if we don't have a full commission at our next scheduled meeting, that we would commit to have a special meeting so that we can move forward in
Yeah.
whatever direction we decide?
I'll agree with that.
I'll agree with that. Need to find out, let's get Mr. Taylor to commit to be here soon.
Yeah, if the 22nd, our next scheduled meeting, if we can't have a full commission, that we would agree that this needs to be a priority and that we would schedule a special meeting that everybody could attend.
Special meeting after the 22nd.
After the 22nd, if everybody can't be here the 22nd, then as soon as possible after that we could schedule a special meeting so that we could get direction and move forward.
I completely agree.
I do too.
Okay, move on with my city manager report. I just want to let you know that Watco's contractor will be here tomorrow to begin work on the 4th Street crossing. Frankly, it'll be limited work. They will be replacing the wooden planks on the one set of tracks. They're still trying to contract with someone who would mill down the asphalt on the other sets of tracks, both there on 4th Street and 1st Street. They haven't had much response. It may come down to them actually renting a machine and doing some of the work themselves, but they will be here tomorrow and anticipate the closure there on 4th Street for a couple of days while that work takes place. We had began working on codification this week, and then Paul decided he needed to go to jury duty, so we're a little bit delayed on that. But we're going to continue hopefully tomorrow to get some codification work done. I'd like to remind you of a retirement reception for Captain Wayne Joplin. I believe you probably got an email today. It'll be December 16th from 2 to 4. That will be his last shift. So ask you to come out and wish him well. Just to be mindful, the police department's going to be doing some night qualifying at the range Thursday this week. So there's going to hear a lot of gunfire in the evenings from around 6 to 9. So if you get phone calls, that's what it's going to be. Also, a couple other things with the police department. We're going to have Shop with a Cop, which is going to be December 18th at 8 to noon, from 8 to noon. And also, they're doing an event, Fill a Cruiser event. They're asking people to donate non-perishable food, clothing, or toys. And on the 11th, they're going to be at Family Dollar from 8 to noon. And on the 12th, they're going to be located at Country Mart from 8 to noon. So ask people to come out and donate and give to a worthy cause. We've had some talk about electric generation. Right now, we're roughly a week behind schedule due to the rains that we had here a couple of weeks ago, but the contractors are working Saturdays to get back on schedule. So under budget and roughly on schedule with that project. I met with John Devine today from the Leadership Company. Staff met him as well. He showed up during staff meeting, but to discuss a council retreat for strategic planning and goal setting. I emailed each of you today some possible dates as to some times that would work to set a retreat to begin that process. And you know, if you could look that over and get back to me as soon as possible, we'll try to get that started. I mentioned the elevator at City Hall. That obviously we need to keep that in service. It's the only handicap accessibility to the third floor, and we are having issues with people getting stuck because it has no problem coming down, but when it's going up, it tends to skip past the floor and won't stop exactly on the floor. So we've had a few instances here in the last week or two where we've had to get people off of the elevator. We don't believe it to be a safety issue that it's going to plummet to the bottom or anything like that, but it is going to be a little bit of an inconvenience here for a while until we can get that repaired. Spoke with Judge Collins tonight, you know, and he asked that it remain in service if at all possible.
So it's going to be taken out of service while we...
It obviously when it's being repaired it'd be, but right now we're using it, and occasionally it misses its mark when it's going up to a floor.
What do you mean by missing its mark? Like
It's supposed to stop at the third floor, it ends up on the fourth floor.
Okay. But it doesn't like stop in between floors.
Thomas, have you clarified that, whether we've had that issue happen yet or not?
I don't know exactly where, when, I know they've called a couple times where people were actually stuck in it. One was a lawyer one day, and I think we had 3 people today. I'm not sure exactly what's happening. What I'm getting from the texts for the elevator guys are basically it's the slowdown. You know, elevators as they're going up, it's going up at speed and then it slows down and then gently stops. Well, that valve is malfunctioning, so instead of slowing down when it does stop, it's just flat out stopping. And sometimes my guess is maybe it might be off a couple inches or something and causes it to not want to open the doors. Otherwise, it's also forcing them up to the 4th floor and people are having to walk down.
What does that do to our ADA compliance?
No, we would, if you didn't have the elevator, then we would have no ADA accessibility to the 3rd floor.
That's why we are.
That's why we're keeping it in service.
We're keeping it.
But if it stops like 2 or 3 inches away from the floor and you're confined to a wheelchair, how do you get out of there?
I believe.
Or if it shifts you to the 4th floor.
Fire department, so I don't know.
If
I
it-
don't know exactly where. Is it in between?
So if
a
it
lot of
shifts you
times-
to the 4th floor and you're trying to go to the 3rd floor,
Just
what do? You can't walk downstairs if
hit
you're
the
in
3rd floor
a...
button, the down works just fine. There's no problems on it. It slows down like it's supposed to and comes to a general stop. It's just the going up that's the issue.
Okay.
And like I said, we're going to try to keep it running as much as possible. A couple times, just a quick reset on the power has been keeping it functioning.
Unless you're the person stuck in it, right?
There's no question it's not the best solution, but it is right now the only solution that we have for accessibility.
They're hoping to get me information back on the actual fix. They're hoping to get me something by the end of the week. But just the holidays, it's got to be manufactured before it's actually going to be repaired. It's probably going to be after the 1st of the year.
So it's going to be a time where we're going to have to work with it and we're going to do whatever we can to keep it operating so that people can get to the third floor, but it's going to cause some inconveniences.
Just one final thing, and she won't like it, but thanks to Lisa Brookover and people that helped her coordinate Christmas parade. That was obviously my first one, but I've heard nothing but just wonderful comments about it, and it was great to see that many people come out and take part in it and enjoy the night. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager Francis. Comments from commissioners or staff?
Mayor and Commissioners, I've been asked to let you know that the work comp insurance will be coming to the Commission at the next meeting. We were hoping to have that on tonight's meeting, but our insurance carrier, Carrot, they approved their rates today. Marilyn and Tricia both went to that meeting this afternoon. So they've approved those rates today, so we'll be bringing that to the Commission at the next meeting for approval.
Thank you. I don't have any comments.
I have several.
Commissioner Castler.
You want to break? What you said? What are we doing with the building across from the fire department?
Hold on, if you give me just a second. Commissioner Castler had asked me these previously, and currently you're referring to the building at 601 Walnut, I believe it is. The current use is really, it's nothing. Some of it's storage for hazmat suits and my understanding some car seats. And so that's what it's currently being used for.
Okay. Is there a staff problem in each department?
We're not short in every department. We are short in the police department. Approximately 3 officers. Electric distribution had been short, but they just hired 2 employees. In speaking with Mike Shook, he believes that right now staffing is sufficient. However, in the future they may need to hire 1 more on the operations side. Public service was short, as we all know, but I believe that we tried to address that in the 2016 budget and be able to add a couple employees. So are we, not every department, but there are certain departments that were understaffed, and we're feeling it.
How much money exactly has been spent on utilities offices? How much per year are we saving a year?
And the utilities office, and this was through July, had been about $5,000. So it equates to about $10,000 a year that we're spending to keep the lights on, so to speak, at the 8th and Buckeye location.
How much do we spend on the building, in the parking lot and all that?
I do not have that information.
No, I just want to know.
It was my understanding that when he asked me, that he wanted to know what we were.
I didn't mean to hijack your question.
No,
I'd
yeah.
like to know.
Okay. Well, and we can get that information for you, and I'll provide that for you. One thing to remember about that location is that if we do keep it, that it will need a new roof, and it will need remodeled to be ADA compliant. And again, as I stated, the biggest problem in my mind is the inefficiencies to staff and the disconnect that it provides between the supervisors and their line employees, and also the ability to cover shifts if someone is absent. But as far as pure cost, it's roughly $10,000 a year, included the utilities, insurance, those types of things that it. And so, as far as how much are we saving a year, I guess it would be that. I mean, if you didn't have that facility.
Okay. There's a lot of things going around that if we do the standalone and things that City Hall will be abandoned. Can you speak to that?
City Hall absolutely will not be abandoned. I don't, whatever budget we decide upon, City Hall will be the priority. It will be the first to be remodeled and renovated, and then we'll have to prioritize and fit the rest into whatever budget is presented to us. Currently, you have a shell of a building on 2 floors. That.
Why would City Hall be the first if we have a police department snack bar? I'm not saying you guys' conditions are great, but administration in them buildings is probably better than the police department snack bar.
A reduced budget is probably going to require trying to put them back into City Hall. I don't foresee us.
Well, that wasn't really what I was. No matter what we do, that should be the first priority. Is the police department's getting screwed here?
I would agree.
All right.
It's my intent to do it all at the same time.
If we get offices from the county to move in there, it's a if, would that not increase traffic to the building that we wouldn't otherwise get? A lot of people have worried that people won't go there anymore, but will it not increase? It is rhetorical, of course.
Yeah, obviously, if you were to put some of the county offices in there, it would increase traffic. But there is no way that building's going to be abandoned. We're going to make use of that building.
And what about the fire station if we do the standalone?
It will still be used as some storage and a site for one of the reserve trucks. It will help us count our ISO rating too. I think our water rescue equipment would probably remain there. James might be able to speak to it a little clearer than I was, but because of the budget, the $5 million that we've budgeted for the standalone, we have been allowed limited bay space, so we're going to have to utilize that building.
Okay.
Or we would prefer to.
Last question is for Trish. We talked about this the other day when I was meeting with Kendall. What is going on with the Walmart property that we own, or is that confidential?
That property is part of the East Coffeyville redevelopment plan. We'll be presenting that to you at the December 22nd meeting. Basically, it's going to be it's been identified as future commercial space. The property itself is unusable. The ceiling has giant holes in it, from what I understand.
No, I'm talking about.
No, he's referring to the property on the far east, out by the current Walmart.
Yes, the former Sunoco.
No, I'm
Or
not
do you
talking
mean the
about.
one on the far west side?
Yeah.
Out by
Walmart is now
Where the current Walmart is, the land that we own around.
Oh, that land. I'm sorry. That land, the city has that land as a potential incentive for commercial development. I spoke with several developers out in Dallas when I attended that convention for retail attraction to our community, and I received a flat-out there's no way we'll develop unless we get that property. Cato's Shoe Department, Dollar Tree, Panda Express, GameStop, there was another shoe store, all said they will not locate anywhere but at Walmart, and they want basically that L-shaped shopping center to go around Walmart. So if we want any of those businesses to come to Coffeyville, that's ideal property for us to develop. So I held that out as a carrot to those businesses, and they were very encouraged that we had that property, and I'm pursuing that conversation with those businesses.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Sorry for the confusion.
It's all right. Probably my fault. Didn't word it very well.
Any additional comments from commissioners or staff? That concludes our business for this evening. We will adjourn into executive session for the purpose of attorney-client privilege for not to exceed 10 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Second.